Here we have the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard in 38 special. Gives you 5 rounds of 38. Let's clear this and body check. All 5 cylinders. Sorry, no depth perception. Are clear. We're going to talk about why I recommend this to literally every single person that currently or is planning on carrying a firearm. It's hard to beat the reliability of a revolver. As illustrated in the video, I'll roll some B-roll here. There's not a lot to obstruct. All you have to do is pull the trigger. And even if you short stroke it, right, even if you might have a dead cylinder, but unlike an automatic where you'd have to tap, rack, and get back on target, you can just pull the trigger again. Light primer strike, pull the trigger again. Wrapped up in clothing, pull the trigger again. An assailant's hands are wrapped around the weapon. Let it eat, right? A lot of utility for a revolver like this. As you can see, it's hammerless. Nothing really to snag. This one in particular just happened to come with the Crimson Trace laser. I don't really use it, but it is fascinatingly accurate and holds 0. You're probably better off using it. I'll show some footage of me embarrassing myself and missing. You do have a very short sight radius, just gutter sights here. You can see the trench and front sight post, which is replaceable. As you can see, there's a pin there. Replace it with fiber optic or so if you wish. Again, the primary use for this for me is assuming I'm already in a fist fight or hand-to-hand combat distance. This is something I don't have to, if you have an automatic and an assailant's coming, you have to create distance and retract, maintain a solid grip, and hope that weapon operates. The second, let me drop this round. The second somebody's, you're on your back or you're in a scuffle and you get a hand around the slide, right? Like on a Glock or any semi-automatic handgun or clothes or something gets behind the slide, you might only get 1 round off, right? So 5 rounds of 38 doesn't sound like much. It really doesn't. But studies show that the majority of self-defense shootings are over in, I'm probably going to butcher this, but in under 4 seconds, under 4 rounds, and within 4 feet. You would have a hard time convincing me that this is an insufficient weapon for that. A Glock in extremely experienced hands, a 200-pound man that can push a crackhead off of him long enough to reciprocate the slide, smack his magazine back in, get back in the fight, and go. Sure. Grandma, probably not going to happen. And if I'm being honest, I'm going to hurt some feelings here. The majority of you watching this likely do not train enough and are not sufficient enough with a semi-automatic handgun to be able to clear those malfunctions under stress, under duress, and especially on your back getting the shit kicked out of you. Whereas this weapon, you can quite literally jam it into a rib cage. And he ain't happy. The biggest, baddest guy in the world with 538 rounds in the pelvic girdle is not going to be that much of a threat after that. And 38 is still very capable. Don't let people fool you. Watch some ballistic tests. I highly recommend Lucky Gunner. Gun Sam on YouTube is fantastic. I found him recently. He goes over a lot of revolver-specific loads, a lot of revolver-specific techniques and barrel lengths, and it really shows a lot of the differences that can exist between revolvers. Even of the same barrel length, same style handgun, you can get different velocities of different rounds. You can get different failures, different complications. Some finishes stay clean longer than others. A lot of revolvers, particularly stainless revolvers, you do want to wipe down and keep oiled. They will rust and begin some surface deterioration. I actually don't know what this coating is. I don't want to misspeak on it. I'll post a link to Smith & Wesson's page for this specific gun to kind of explain what that finish is. But this stays in my pocket. Don't get it twisted. I carry a Glock 19X as my primary carry, more of an offensive platform to be able to project and dominate a firefight at distance. This is definitely for walking to my car, go to get the mail, sitting in my recliner at home. Absolutely stays in my pocket. I do recommend, especially if you're a new shooter, and especially if you got kids, variables. Sorry, smacked the tripod there. I do recommend you get a trigger guard holster, if not an entire holster, and I'll show you an example of that shortly, just to protect that trigger guard. But One beautiful thing about double action revolvers, and see, I keep checking the cylinder just to make sure it's clear every time before I pull the trigger. Just general firearm safety, guys. This is not light. You can't see this in your video, but this is between 8 and 12 pounds. I'd say right on the nose at 10, just kind of guessing. And it's awful. It's miserable. You're not going to make a 100-yard shot with this guy. If you do, let me know. I can regularly hit 100-yard shots with single action revolvers and or automatics, including stock trigger Glocks. This is very difficult to shoot at distance. But again, that's not what it's for. Again, a common self-defense distance, 4-6 feet, up to, I'd say up to 7 yards, 21 feet. You're not going to have a problem getting all 5 in the 10 zone. And if you do have a problem with that, you should train more. That's really what it comes down to. But kind of getting to brass tacks, the reason I recommend this and similar firearms so frequently is because, and even some of you guys that watch gun content, you shoot, unless you're training frequently, and I would say frequently as like a minimum of once a month, maybe once every 2 months if you're really getting it in, long range days, you're not going to have the proficiency necessary to keep an automatic in the fight. You're just not. People think that you rise to the occasion, oh, you're going to fight through it, blackout. That's just not true. Human beings fall back to their training. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the highest level of your training. So this is something that can be left in a purse, be left in a pocket, a tackle box, a glove box, hide one at your parents' house, keep one in your extra vehicle. There are many of these that are cheap. This one's not. It's almost a $600 handgun. But you can get like the Rock Island Armory 206 in 38 special. There's a number of used Tauruses and other revolvers that can be had for $200 used, $300, and in that space. It's not something you're gonna be super proud of. It's not really Gucci. You're not gonna brag about it to all the boys. Oh, look at my new PDP with red dot. Like, no, that's not what this is for. This is to save your life when you are losing. And it's really good at that. That's what they do. There's no magazine to replace. There's no springs to fail in the magazine. The springs for the trigger and the hammer system, which are enclosed, are not under tension. I would feel very confident loading this firearm today and picking it up in 25 years and it being able to protect me. Obviously, don't do that. Train with your firearms, train with them regularly, keep them clean, cycle your ammo, shoot your defensive ammo. And of course, above all else, especially for new shooters, I do recommend that you put, at a bare minimum, a 50-round box through this guy. In 38, that's probably going to cost you, $40, $35, which kind of sucks. But, if you're not going to train, which is reality for the majority of people that are going to purchase and carry a firearm, unfortunately, I'm not condoning that. It's just reality, right? Like your wife, I don't know, maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're just a normal guy and you want to be able to protect yourself. Highly recommend it. 5 reliable rounds that will go off every time. And, hopefully save your life or the life of a loved one. That's what this is all about. So highly recommend picking one of these guys up. I do enjoy it being hammerless for pocket carry, something that you don't think about when you're holding it and playing with it. But if it's in a pocket or even in a holster and, you're panicking, got a coat on, you're shaking, and you got to pull your shirt over, a hammer could very easily hook clothing, and you could stop short with your draw stroke and pull the trigger in a panic. You could shoot yourself. You could miss around, hit a bystander. There's a lot of bad things that can happen. With a hammer, you can make longer shots. I've made, I think it was not, I'm not gonna say 100. I think it was 92 yards. I can make a 92-yard shot with a hammered snub nose standing. But that's just not, you're talking second-degree murder distances. And God forbid you're dealing with an active shooter that's 90 yards away with this. You probably have bigger problems because your balls are so big. You're going to have a hard time walking back to your truck. That's not a situation you want. This is not a defensive firearm for WROL, World Without Rule of Law. It's not a firearm for getting jumped by 6 dudes or defending a home invasion or a tyrannical government. That's not what this is for. This is for the crackhead that wants your wallet. Obviously, always try to de-escalate, always try to get away. But the problem is with those scenarios is crackhead walks up, right, or whatever head, recreational drug of choice, meth enthusiast, whatever verbiage you want, and it's easy at the range to be like, oh yeah, okay, you know, I'm doing this with the camera, so it's hard to align my sight. Equal height, equal light, and pull that trigger. And FYI for new shooters, equal height, equal light. You want the front sight post at the same height as the rear, flush, and you want equal light on either side of the post. Now the problem is, if you yank that trigger, right, I don't have a very good grip either, but, and I'm intentionally not holding an on target, but just ripping the trigger, I mean, you know, at 7-10 feet, that's fine. That's inside of a chest. Every foot you go past that, that arc is drastically exaggerated. So this is not a long-range weapon. Understand what you're getting yourself into. But that's not what it's for. It serves its purpose very well. It will absolutely defend you in any situation. Again, defense. Offense, not really recommending it. But yeah, that's what I got for you. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend you grab one, regardless of brand, caliber. If you get into lesser brands, a lot of people talk down on Taurus, for instance. Personally, I've never, ever had a problem out of any revolver, ever. I've short of a short stroke, right, which is user induced. Like if you don't pull the trigger all the way, the cylinder kind of gets wonky. You might skip around or something. That just happens as part of training, as part of shooting. That's just a feature of revolvers. It's just something that's going to happen. I've never had a Taurus fail. I've never had a Rock Island Armory 206 fail, which is quite literally like a $200 38 pistol. I mean, it's a hunk of shit. It's not something you're going to be really proud of, but for something that costs nothing, you leave in a pocket, you leave in a sock drawer, you leave in a car, you leave in a glove box, obviously locking a weapon in a vehicle's situation and geographical location dependent. Definitely wouldn't do that for most of you. That's not a wise idea. You should always have your firearm on you. And yeah, for what it's worth, I hope that helps you make a decision. Now I want to show you a good defensive round. And again, this is kind of geared towards new shooters, guys. Like this is if you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, you should probably sign off now because it's gonna be a waste of time. But these are the particular 38 rounds that I carry in mine. They are Federal Punch 120 grain 38 Special Plus P. The Plus P indicates a roughly 10% increase in pressure. These are low pressure rounds. It's over a 100-year-old design. They were actually originally designed for black powder and low pressure applications. So Plus P is really just like modern spec. Metallurgy is better. Guns are better. They can handle a little more. Let's see if I can do that. And if you notice the little blue little ring here, I have giant hands. It's not really working. Forgive me. There you go. That's a sealed primer. And all that really means is it'll keep oil, dirt, snow, I don't know what you're into, KY, I don't know what you have in your pockets. But it'll protect that primer and guarantee ignition for a much longer time. So in all of my carry ammunition, I'm also a strange guy. I do rental properties, I do flip houses, I'm in construction constantly in dirty environments. So I try to make sure that my stuff is durable, can handle dust, can handle oil, liquids, and still be deadly. Gun Sam does a phenomenal ballistics test on this with using ballistics gel, and it was kind of impressive. 120 grain is a little light for a 38 load. Most are 125 grain. 158 grain is another common load, which was also shared with 357 Magnum. But these seem to do okay. Smaller bullets don't penetrate as deeply. They don't carry as far. They don't smash through bone as well. But again, philosophy of use, POU, is I'm not going to be firing this at a running target in a crowd of people. It's just not, it's not a lot of things. It's not reality. It's not within the use case of double action snub nose revolver. It's just stupid. So don't do that. But 120 grain at muzzle contact distance up against a rib cage, this very likely won't make it through the other side. And that's a feature. That's a desire for a weapon in this use case, right? You're on top, somebody's on top of you, beating the absolute shit out of you. Maybe they're armed, maybe they have a knife, maybe there's many of them. You don't want really big, heavy, hard cast like Buffalo Bore Plus P 158 grain slugs. They're going to take out 3 or 4 people in a row. That's not a desired function. So new shooters, when you hear people talk about like penetration being desirable, yes. Absolutely. The FBI spec is, I believe, 12 to 18 inches of penetration. That's also for a duty load. That's quite literally designed to stop people, put them down hard. And the FBI uses Hornady critical duty or defense or critical something, critical stuff. 135 grain 9mm rounds, just for size comparison difference. This is just a 9mm ball round. Just kind of showing the differences there. 38 actually has the same diameter, 355 inches, 357, whatever it is. Can be crammed down the same barrel. A lot of revolvers actually. Fun fact: if you get a 38 revolver that's a swappable cylinder, Taurus of all people, I'm not shilling for Taurus or anything, but they have a revolver in particular that you can carry 38 if you like, or 357 or whatever, and you can swap the cylinder on the revolver and fire 9mm. Now, little tidbit of information: despite it being smaller, 9mm is a much more modern cartridge, and especially with defensive loads, it will recoil more. It's strange, I know, but it will. And you'll also notice a lot of revolvers that might have six-shot cylinders for 38 will only have 5-shot cylinders for 9mm, and that's because the pressure during detonation, the case will expand, and that's a really big issue. Especially if you're reloading. I don't carry extra ammo for this. I'm not reloading for this. If I've got such a shit day that 5 shots to the rib cage didn't solve the problem, and I lose my Glock in a swamp, I don't know. I'm gonna clock out. So reloading this is miserably slow. I'll show you some footage of that shortly, and I'll show you some footage of the take before that, where I literally dropped all of my bullets in the ground and couldn't find, and found like 2. So, but anyways. You expend your rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If this is your only firearm, or there are a lot of great revolvers that can take moon clips, or speed strips, or speed loaders. I'll do another video on that at another time, but there's plenty of content out there. A speed strip is a plastic strip. I'll show you a picture here. And you basically insert the rounds, peel the strip off, right? Like I've got really large hands, so I hold my index finger through there, peel them off, right? And this is so awkward to do in front of the camera. And then you reload and you're back in the fight. A moon clip is a metal retaining ring. I'll show you a picture. And it holds all the rounds in one single unit. So you can eject and put it in and you get back in the fight. Not all revolvers are cut for that. You have to have some, it has to be a specific machining pattern inside of the cylinder here to be able to take moon clips. But regardless, they make speed loaders for all revolvers. I'll show you a picture of those here. And basically that secures the rounds in a device. You place, I have them just only for 6-shot revolvers, but I'll be happy to show you in another video. You insert the rounds and you either twist or push, or there's some type of mechanism to release those rounds. You ditch it and you're back in the fight. Being able to reload a revolver is important, if only for saving time at the range. It kind of sucks. But also if it's your primary. If it's your primary, I highly, highly, highly recommend you carry additional ammunition. If you're new to revolvers, probably speed strips. They're just kind of mechanically simple. They're kind of hard to screw up. They work really well. They're very stiff when you first get them, so make sure you insert the rounds, remove the rounds, insert them, remove them. Make sure they actually move. Make sure you train with it. Make sure you practice a reload. And if you have exposed lead on your bullets, maybe they have speed loaders with a female receptacle. And this is a bad illustration, but if this is the speed loader in this hand, it sits inside of the receptacle and covers the lead from this round. So don't get all over your hands, all over your pockets, in your mouth, into your kids, and growing third arms. So avoid lead when you can. But yeah, fantastic example of what I believe the absolute perfect self-defense firearm for 99.9% of Americans. I would sure hate to piss off a grizzly with this. You know, if you're in the wilderness, you might want to consider something a little more capable. That being said, 9mm has killed grizzly bears. People are going to call bullshit, and that's fine, whatever. It really comes down to ammo selection. And I'll show you what I carry for my 9mm handgun in a second. But the main killing factor of this revolver is this is a 1.875 inch barrel. 2-inch barrel from here on out, because I'm not saying all that, but it's a little short. And the shorter the barrel you have, the less time you have behind that bullet to push it out, the less velocity you get, the less terminal effect. Energy from rounds comes from speed. and the weight of that projectile has a factor. Lighter rounds, especially 120 grain round, is not going to penetrate much more than 12 inches. Speeding, charging, black bear, that's insufficient. If you're point blank and get a headshot, maybe, but you're not going to penetrate through its head, its shoulders. It's laying down facing you while running. Basically, you're not going to hit vitals, and damn sure not going to do it in 5 shots. You're going to die. You're just going to be a tasty snack. You might want to slather some butter all over yourself and maybe strip down, make it a little nicer for the bear, because that's all you're going to do is be a giant chicken nugget. So don't do this. But if maybe this is your only option, maybe it's difficult to get firearms and this is just all you have for a little bit, you can still defend yourself against large creatures with this. And I'll show you an example of the 9mm round I carry, but buffalo boar in particular has fantastic outdoorsman and wildlife ammunition. I don't carry the 38 load because my concealed carry pistol that I would use for that is 9mm. I believe in capacity. I believe in 19 chances to hit that bear's brain over 5. That's just simple mathematics. But you could very easily swap the rounds out. You're going camping. This is your only gun. Put some hot buffalo boar 158 grain hard cast plus P. Holy shit, 10,000 rounds or whatever they call them in this thing, and you will absolutely be capable of stopping any mammal on the North American continent, in my opinion. Capable and doing it efficiently are not synonymous, but you can actually hit vitals with a small barrel handgun with their proper correct round selection. So I'll post a link to Buffalo Boar's website, as well as specifically to their outdoorsman model to show the 9mm load that I carry, as well as like a recommendation for this guy. And I think that'll do you really well. So again, you really could have one firearm to rule them all. Is not what this is. I'll never say that. It's just not. But if you're thinking about a first gun, and if I'm being honest, the whole reason I'm making this video is I give so much instruction and recommendations to people. I'm just kind of tired of repeating myself over and over again. So I constantly recommend these to people. People constantly buy them. They constantly train with them, and they grow, right? I have friends that are 100-pound women realtors. I have friends that are 250-pound construction workers. I'm a 6'7", 350-pound man. My mother-in-law. There are a broad range of use cases for this. You don't have to be MEAL Team 6, DOD, CIA, ABC, like nobody gives a fuck, man. Nobody cares. This will stop a human threat, no problem, and it'll stop a quadrupedal threat. Maybe with a problem, maybe not. Again, not the ideal use case, but a box of ammo, for as expensive as Buffalo Boar is a better option economically for someone than buying an entire new handgun, an entire new cartridge, and so on and so forth. So that's why I mentioned that. But yeah. Crackheads, home intruder, not the ideal situation. As studies have shown, the majority of home invasions now, criminals, they're not all stupid. A lot of them are armed. A lot of times it's more than one. But the reality is easy targets are what get hit. So I don't know about you, but if I'm looking for a laptop to steal and pay for some drugs, and I start taking rounds as I'm booting in the door, I'm probably not sticking around, man. Like that, I'm not there for a gunfight. I'm not there to hurt you. You understand like the philosophy, right? Like if somebody's there to rob you or do a home invasion, if their goal is to hurt you, this is going to be no bueno, because they will succeed, especially more than one shooter. I could train 2 incompetent men and give them AR-15s, and they would absolutely dominate probably the most skilled individual in the world with this handgun. That's just reality. So you definitely want to upgrade. You definitely want to grow. You want to train. But the beautiful thing is as you train and as you grow, you will never outgrow this firearm, because even me, I'm not going to brag, but I compete in IDPA. I know what I'm doing. I hit what I shoot at, right? And this still has a purpose of use. Walking around the house in basketball shorts, it's in my pocket. On the toilet, it's in my pocket. Walking past guys outside of a 7-Eleven that may or may not want what I have, it's in my pocket. It's in my hand. It's very functional. Now, if I have time for a draw stroke and to get my Glock out, absolutely, that's going to happen. I'm going to give you the business and a lot of it. But this is a very solid backup option, and I highly, highly recommend this to any and all new shooters. I recommend it to professional shooters. I recommend it to police officers for a backup gun. If you don't have a backup gun, you're wrong. If you carry a firearm or a duty application and your life could potentially be very specifically targeted, ambushed. There's a lot of videos out there, cops getting ambushed up close, far away, whatever. A lot of videos of cops on the side of the road, either beating somebody's ass or beating a homeless lady's ass or a criminal. You never really know. It's always a toss up. And I'm not sorry for that because it absolutely happens. If that offends you, then, grow a set. I don't know what to tell you. It's absolutely true. But, if you're on your back, getting the shit kicked out of you. Okay, problem solved. If you're on top and winning, but this person is getting away or they're procuring a firearm, maybe they have a Glock. Like, I don't know what the situation is. Right? I actually didn't pull the shot, but problem solved. Okay, 100-pound realtor. Two creepy guys are staying late. They're not leaving the open house. You're alone, which you shouldn't be. But if you are, right? Problem solved. Ish, right? Like, at that point, you get gunshots. Cops are getting called. Hopefully, you're not being raped and murdered. I try to not get raped and murdered. I'm trying to quit. But, I don't know what you're into. That might be your jam. But, yeah, recommend it. Lady shooters, old shooters, young shooters, smart shooters, stupid shooters, really good shooters, really bad shooters. You need a snub nose. All right, guys. Be safe.